With the Citi Double Cash Card, you get 1% cash back when you buy and 1% as you pay. That's like the joy of discovering the last donut.
Ooh.
And it has your name on it, literally, in chocolate sprinkly things.
No way.
Double the love with the Citi Double Cash Card. Apply now at Citi.com/doublecash.
Just smoothing through hour number 2 on a Thursday here. Golic and Wingo. Mm-hmm. That song is awesome, by the way.
It really is.
Yeah.
Very smooth.
That's
I agree
tremendous. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic. Mike Golic Jr. Lots to get into. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, including Michael Collins, as we'll head to the Bahamas in about 30 minutes as Tiger gets set to tee it up in his tournament, the Hero World Challenge, and see what's ahead there.
So, we're gonna get into this between the players and the league and money offered for the protests that have been going on and a deal worked out. But still more talk on Eli as we'll have throughout the morning. Michael tweets in, if Cutler is starting in Miami, how can we say Eli doesn't start somewhere next year as well? We know the Cutler connection with Gase. There was knowing the system and had a good year with him, a couple of years ago. So there was that connection there. But there is something to that, to think all the teams and the quarterbacks we talking about in this league that he wouldn't be starting somewhere because there are teams that need a quarterback.
Yeah, and we also should address one thing as you bring up quarterback play. A lot of people are looking at the quarterbacks that are starting around the NFL this year. Tom Savage and Blake Bortles, and as you mentioned, Jay Cutler, and all these backup quarterbacks are playing. Well, that's the reason that the ratings are down. And our own Bill Barnwell had a great response to that. He went back to 2007 when the NFL was 10 years ago, and it was at its zenith. Right. That was the year when the Patriots, their double, we're going to do what we do and see if you can stop us tour, 16-0. People are putting, this is the reason the ratings are down. And Bill Barnwell, who's great and does great work for .com, said these are the quarterbacks who threw 20 passes Week 13 of 2007. Chris Redmond, Joey Harrington, Kyle Bowler, Trent Edwards, Vinny Testaverde at 44, Rex Grossman, Derek Anderson, John Kitna, Sage Rosenfels, Damon Hewer, John Beck, Tavares Jackson, Kellen Clemens, Josh McCown, who's still throwing 20 passes now.
Yes, he is. That's hilarious.
A.J. Feely, Gus Frerotte, and Luke McCown. So I
really?
Yeah, I kind of feel like the people that are saying, the quarterback play is terrible now, are the same people that said, when I was your age, I walked to school through 6 inches of snow uphill to and from the building.
Yeah.
So don't ever come at me with that because we've always had horrible quarterback play in the NFL at times.
We know the ratings are down, and I don't think there's any doubt you can't point to one thing and say that's the reason. Like most things, it's multiple reasons why something is either doing really well or something not as well, and I would say the same thing here.
Yeah, that's a good thing and a bad thing because recognizing that is powerful, but also understanding that means that people can poach whatever one reason they want out of that and make it the only reason.
Selective data.
Right.
So I would say to that,
take that for data.
There you go.
We're getting it. We're getting it. So, look, that's the point. And I'll say one thing. People aren't watching television the same way they watched it 10 years ago or 5 years ago. That's the biggest thing. And everything else can contribute this much.
Right.
And on the radio version, I'm putting my fingers together very close together.
Very close together.
But this much,
or very wide apart.
Wide apart is that television viewing has completely changed. It's your generation, Junior. You guys don't watch TV the way every other generation has watched TV. So I blame hipster brawny paper towel guy.
Yeah. I had this conversation with someone in all seriousness the other day trying to think of the last great run of comedies because when you think of in recent memory, you come up with The Hangover or Wedding Crashers or things like that, Step Brothers. Those movies are like 7 and 8 years old now.
You were asking me, what's the quotable comedy in the last decade?
Whatever Netflix TV series you're downloading.
Well, that's the point. It's whatever's coming off Netflix. It's a YouTube series. It's memes on the internet. Like, that's the social currency of the day. So it has completely changed the way that we do all of this. And so you're just battling interesting now. It's not just sports battling sports. It is interesting versus interesting. And that is the only barrier for entry.
Or as Bryce Harper once referred to them as maymays.
Maymay.
He said,
watch me whip. Watch me maymay.
But can you whip and maymay at the same time?
Oh my gosh,
that was
here we go.
It was so close.
It really was.
We whittled it down to a fine point, and then we smashed the point against the table.
And let's move on to a different point. Something that we had been talking about earlier. The NFL and a group of players had reached an agreement in principle Wednesday night to partner on a plan to address social issues, which is sort of what the protests were all about. And these issues considered important to African American communities, according to ESPN's research. The NFL had pledged to contribute some $89 million over 7 years to projects dealing with the criminal justice reform, law enforcement, community relations, education, etc., etc., etc. But during a conference call Wednesday night, Eagle safety Malcolm Jenkins and Anquan Bolden, who led a group of roughly 40 players, basically,
this coalition,
came under some scrutiny. And some people, the players that weren't involved in the process, were very upset about this, how it went down, the way it went down, and what these dollars meant, including one of them is 49er safety Eric Reed.
As far as the proposal, I think it's important to emphasize that it's a proposal. It's just things that Roger Goodell has communicated with us. It's not even, it hasn't been brought to ownership yet. So it's not real. When I started doing this, it wasn't to get funds from the NFL. It was to raise awareness. And even if the NFL were to fund my organization, Malcolm's organization, that doesn't change systemic oppression. A couple $1 million in the grand scheme of our country. It has to be bigger than the NFL. It has to be bigger than just my organization or Malcolm's organization. So I give kudos to the NFL for wanting to step up and help us with regard to systemic oppression. I question their intent behind it. I personally think they just want the protest to end because it's affecting their bottom line.
So there's some tentacles to this.
Yes, it's not easy. This is not. This is nuanced. This is something that has to be parsed very carefully.
Understand this coalition: Malcolm Jenkins, Anquan Bolden, Eric Reed was part of this coalition, and as of late, though, Eric Reed has separated himself from this coalition. He feels he has been left out of some of the decision-making and meetings that are going on, so he parted ways with this coalition.
Also believes Colin Kaepernick has been left out of this by Malcolm Jenkins.
He's in contact with Colin Kaepernick a ton, to which Malcolm Jenkins has said, I have talked to Colin Kaepernick, and Colin Kaepernick said he wanted to be informally involved with this coalition, not formally. So there seems to be I don't know if I want to go so far as call it a rift, but there's a disagreement of those that were heading the coalition. Eric Reed has now walked away from it, while Anquan Bolden and Malcolm Jenkins are still dealing with the NFL. So there is that side of it. And let me just first say on that side, of it, before we even get to the money and the intent and what Michael Wilbon had to say, I would hope, and this is what I say all the time, because this is always how I've been, and Mike, you know this about me, is we then hear Eric Reed on Twitter. We just hear that soundbite there. And then we hear Malcolm Jenkins says, now, okay, he has to answer to that. I hope, and I don't know, I hope they have talked. I mean, that always blows my mind when there seems to be a disagreement, that are the parties involved talking. Now, I know they both play for a team and they can't fly and meet one another, but there are telephones and there is Skype and there are ways where you can actually talk to one another. I hope they've at least done that to try and work through this, because as we try and move forward with what you think of the NFL's offer or not, now, I mean, it's kind of like when Roger Goodell is now headbutting with a Kraft or with a Jerry Jones. Now you have within that group that's supposed to be together in Reed and Malcolm Jenkins in the coalition, you have a separation going on.
Yeah, and that's one part of the issue here. The other thing, look, and Eric Reed is right on one level. It needs to be much bigger than his organization and Malcolm Jenkins' organization. But at some point, it has to start with something, does it not?
Yes.
And $89 million over 7 years to the organizations that they are saying to the players, pick and choose what you want. I mean, I believe when we covered this on NFL Live throughout this entire season and even parts of last year with the protest, the whole point, Damian Woody said it best, was to use the biggest platform you have to get a discussion going, to get something started. And while this may not be the end result, it certainly feels like it's the beginning of something that can be built upon.
I think what they're worried about, and as we kind of have digested a lot of this sound already this morning and on the show I did earlier, trying to see what it is, I would imagine a lot of this is driven by fear that you lose just what you talked about there, Trey. Because I'm sure Eric Reed, when he said, I question the intent, this feels like hush money to him. And there's no agreement that says they have to stop protesting, and there's no quid pro quo. We've heard all that stuff. But we know the implication here. The owners have said as much as we hope that these guys will choose to stand after this. And all I'm sure Eric Reed envisions is a world where once this money gets taken, there's extra pressure then on the players. Hey, we did this for you guys. Owners in the building, like, look, I came to play. I met you halfway on this. Meet me halfway. And to Trey's point, and I'm sure to his point, is this money helps, and it can help these guys individually, and it's a place to start. But they're worried if they lose the leverage, because that's what they've had in this situation, is uncommon leverage for players versus the league, because they are affecting their bottom line in some ways that they have seen. They're worried that once you take this money and once you mitigate some of the conversation and the noise that comes when you have this kneeling, when you have this discord, you lose that leverage for good. You lose that ability to magnify this for good, all in the name of what may seem to him like short-term gains. And maybe in his case, it feels like selfish for him to say, I'm getting this money for my foundation for stuff around here when I can facilitate still bigger and better. There feels like more to him.
And so then I guess I asked, then what is the answer? So, and that's where I'm not sure, and I'm truly asking this. So there's the deal on the table for $89 million, and you can find it anywhere, how it's broken down nationally, locally. They can do more. They'll do more together with fundraising and telethons and auctioning jerseys worn, and there's talk of more to be done.
The Players Coalition is filed as a nonprofit, so they'd be a place to distribute a lot of this.
There's a lot going forward here with this deal. And then from yesterday on Pardon the Interruption, Michael Wilbon took a little bit of an issue with the offer.
There shouldn't be an offer from the league. What do we money? If it's all it's being is quantified, $100 million. So how does $100 million? There is no number that's good.
You got to start somewhere.
No, you don't. And here's what's great: the NFL invoked the NBA, not understanding as usual. The NBA has players who are large enough to affect change by simply talking. The NFL has no such players who can do that on as grand a stage by talking. But if you want to call attention, and that is what is needed, attention and discussion. I understand money helps facilitate everything. I'm never turning down money. But if all they're going to do is they think they can buy their way to social change, can they buy back the lives of the young men who've been gunned down in our communities? No, they can't.
And we're going to try and get Michael Wilbon, because I didn't understand that, quite honestly. Nobody's trying to buy back lives. I mean, come on. Let's not go down that road, that they need to be doing something that's going to show the value of the lives that were lost, and if they're not, then they're not doing anything. I mean, then he said there's not enough money, and then he said money, can start something. So I really would like to talk to him, because the first thing I would have asked him after he said that is, then what is enough? What is enough?
To start something.
What do you need to see from the league? And I'm going to say it. We all have causes. Trey, you have causes, whether it's causes, foundations, whatever. So do we as well. Everybody does out there. And the one thing I can say is, if I have a cause, or if you just imagine out there, you have a cause, a foundation, something went on what in your life, in your family life, something where you so strongly believe in this, and then you want to get others involved. I'm just going to say this. You will never get others to care about it as much as you care about it. So you're not going to get 32 or 31 owners with the public in Green Bay.
Packers,
32 owners to all say, yes, we are going to do everything you're doing. We are going to stand with you every step of the way. We are just as invested as you. They're not. They're not. We're talking about African Americans in trouble they're going to, and basically 31 old white guys, billionaires, right? So to think that they're just all going to lock arms and say, we are in this 100% with you, that doesn't happen anywhere. Because you know what happens? You say to a friend of yours or somebody that has a cause, listen, I'll help. I'll come to an event. I'll do this, and I'm going to give you money as well. And that goes toward what you want to do. So I guess that's what I would ask Michael Wilbon. What's your answer? What do you need to see from the league? Do I think this is in part, without question, here's a lot of money. Hopefully you'll stop protest. Absolutely. Absolutely, I think that's part of it. But on the other side of that, I ask, what do you need? What, Michael Wilbon, do you need to see from the league where you say, now they're doing something? Now they care as much as the players? Because as I just said, nobody is going to care as much as the people who initially start the foundation or the protest.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get Michael Wilbon to come on and address some of those things with you as we continue here at Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Again, we'll head to the Bahamas in 15 minutes for Tiger Woods making his return to competitive golf. But in listening to you there, The one thing that struck me, Mike, was the issue that the NFL has perhaps that is a greater divide more than any of the other big four sports in this country, and it is the relationship between the players and the owners. We had Adam Silver on earlier this week, and he was talking about how to get rid of the one-and-done rule in the NBA, and he said, we're going to talk with Michelle Roberts, who runs the NBA Players Association, and we're going to try and find a way to work this out together. We had Rob Manfred on earlier this week, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, and he said, yes, with the netting and the pace of play, we want to work with the players' union to come up with some sort of way that we can agree to this on both sides. And even after the bitter, drawn-out dispute of the last collective bargaining agreement in 2011 that came through with a 10-year CBA, collective a bargaining agreement between the players and the owners, there is still bitter divide between the players and the owners over so many issues that seems to always get in the way of every conversation that's framed about these two sides trying to do something collectively together.
And I think to that point and to the point that you just made, Dad, about not caring about it, the NFL, we know they're constantly looking out at what the other leagues are doing. We see that contractually with the NBA. Right. You know what else they see? They see Adam Silver arm in arm with the guys in that league saying, I believe in the causes that you believe in. And we've talked about it. The guys and the players seem to want the influence and the scope that these owners provide as much as their money. And so if it just feels like you're getting money but not the rest of it, then these guys are wondering, is that enough to give up the leverage that we have right now? And that's the difficult place. I'm not jealous of Malcolm Jenkins and Anquan Bolden for the reason that they're in now. This is sort of a microcosm of what we see in negotiations every time, which is it's difficult to know if they're representing all of what the constituents in that group want. Because I'm sure to them, they're looking at this and saying, man, we can do a lot of good with this money. We've got these specific goals, but are they the goals of the whole? Are they representing the goals of and is that even possible to properly represent all of those groups? So that's a difficult prospect when your gain and something you see can be very much a positive, but maybe giving up leverage for something bigger. And you're saying, well, I don't know if we're going to get bigger, but you've got other guys around there that look at that and say, this is maybe the last time we'll have the ability to do something like this.
If it's all about just trying to get more money, then you're basically.
Well, I don't know if I don't think it is more money. I don't think there's a dollar amount that satisfies
Then I guess I'll go back to, are they asking the owners to care as much as they do? Can you get that?
No, I don't think they're asking them to care as much. But
what do they want?
I think they're asking them to go out and back it up a little bit more. Money doesn't says you're going to be with me on these things. But who says
they're not? Who says they're not in the communities when they're talking about auctioning other things off or being out there in the communities?
I'm not saying that, but if we're not seeing that in writing and Eric Reed and those guys aren't seeing it, and the understanding through all of this is we just want you guys to be quiet when that's the motivation, how are you supposed to believe that any of that stuff is going to happen unless it's put out there? That's all I'm saying is that seems like the possibility in this.
Yeah, the hush money part of it, I get. But the other side of that to me is to try and get the owners to completely buy in and say, I'm with you lockstep.
I think it's just not buy in, it's understand. Like, that's what this whole thing about has been, trying to get people to understand on a person-to-person basis. And if you can get these guys to understand a little bit more, and that seems to be a big uphill battle for a lot of reasons, but if you can create some understanding, I don't think it's about buy-in. I think it's about reaching another person, and they don't feel like they've reached the amount of people that they could or can going forward if they don't have this tool in their belt.
So would it be fair to say, just so I understand your perspective, your point, you think it's not about buying, but having everybody buy in?
Less buy in, but like understand where
That's
I'm coming from.
That's what I mean by buying in, buying into what you're talking about.
But I'll ask, what? Just like Mr. Gene tweets in, there is no enough. Wilbon is right. More money definitely helps, but this is coming off as hush money. I get it. So what's the buy-in? What's the line? What are you looking for when you hear a player say, I'll stop kneeling down and protesting when I see change? What is that? What is that?
I can't answer that because that's not my community. That's not the change that I'm seeking, and you can ask that question, but I also don't think this is something with a finish line. Like, this is something that has a lot of tentacles to it, to the point that we made earlier. So asking and demanding that there's a concrete marker for success in this.
They're the ones saying it, though. They're the ones saying, I'll stop when I see the change. So it's fair to ask them, isn't it? okay, what's your definition of change? What are you looking for out of this?
I mean, I guess I'm saying it's a big end game that I think defies having one marker for the
listen, I agree with
that.
that.
I don't think anybody's saying there's an end game.
No,
with this.
absolutely not.
This is not an end game. This is to get people to the starting line.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the point. And to that point, I would love to hear from what Malcolm Jenkins and Anquan Bolden, because they felt good enough about this as a starting point, not an end point, a starting point. So where do we continue this conversation going forward? Isn't that the whole thing?
Yeah, well, yeah, it is.
And I think they're worried about the conversation dying going forward if they take this money.
So I guess my question then to that is, then what keeps it going? So does that mean they'll never accept money from the NFL? I mean, Sherrard says that, Mike, my son, Mike Jr., you're hitting the nail on the head about the NFL and their offer and their players declining. By the way, the players aren't declining.
No, it sounds like it's agreed to.
No, the players are not declining.
They're still trying to get it over the goal line. There's a little angst from people like Eric Reed to the points that people are bringing up on Twitter and to what Junior is talking about. But it does look like this money is going to go forward, and the breakdown is all in the story on ESPN.com, where it's going and how it's going to be allotted. Look, no one's ever going to solve this in a 17-minute radio segment. Let's be 100% clear, and we should not be the people deciding whether or not this is
absolutely not.
So let's just be clear about that as well.
I'm just trying to ask the questions, and I know, Mike, you're trying to answer, but that I don't have the answers. I'm just asking the questions, and the one thing I completely agree with you is, and I agree 100% with Michael Wilbon, is that the NBA players, they have a stronger voice.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. So to hear them say what you said, that maybe they'll lose their voice, at some point there has to be something concrete that comes out of this where it may end up that way.
But and I guess I would say to that point is, money is great. But we've always had guys, like, that's been the one thing that's come up in this, is it shined a light on. There's always been a lot of guys around the league doing a lot of good for places locally like this, being involved in things that people didn't see before.
Yes.
And this shined a light on them. And I'm sure they're worried that as great as all this money is, the minute you take that light away, it goes back to being like it was before. Like, we laud the NBA, but the NFL, the minute those guys took a knee, made a stand for themselves that was louder than anything these other leagues have done so far. And they know that this is one of the only things they have because they've seen what it was like before.
Look, absolutely. And at the end of the day, in all of these conversations, it goes back to one fundamental principle that we've talked about. Is there trust between the players of the NFL and the owners of the NFL? And that seems to drive everything more than any other league. And I think that's the bigger issue that some of these players like Eric Reed are afraid of if they take the money. Right. Because do you trust these guys to continue the process if you take that cash? And it's all, you can read how it would be distributed on ESPN.com. It's all broken down there. Our own Jim Trotter and other people have done a great job in sort of getting this story.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Michael Collins joins us now on Golic and Wingo as we are just about 4.5 hours away from seeing something we haven't seen since before the start of the Super Bowl last year. Tiger Woods playing in a competitive round of golf where other PGA players will be in the field as well. Michael is with us from the Bahamas for the Tiger Hero World Challenge. Michael, first of all, it's 300 days since we last saw Tiger Woods do what he's about to do today. What are realistic expectations?
Well, first, I just want to say I'm honored to finally be on the show with you guys, and I'm really happy that you guys are together doing your own thing. And second of all, stop saying it's the assignment of the year or assignment of the month. Listen, we all make career choices, okay? So as much as people used to make fun of the golf guys, Golic, all the football people, hey, look at those little skinny golf guys over there. I just want to say to y'all, how you like me now? I'm just saying.
we like you a lot. So just so you know, we like you a lot.
I know. I can bring you some sand. I'm actually looking at a cruise ship right now pulling into port right here where I'm down at Junkanoo Beach. But when it comes to Tiger Woods, I mean, this comeback, it's hard to explain because Tiger has been not necessarily truthful with us and has admitted so in his other comebacks. So this comeback literally feels and looks different than the other ones because, as Tiger admitted, even though he told us at the other comebacks that he was good and felt great, he didn't look good and didn't look like he felt great. He looked, as he was walking the course, stiff. And then for me, especially, I don't necessarily worry about the golf swing because I know he's going to power through a golf swing. What I thought about with Tiger Woods was after he was done playing golf, after his round, how did he look then? When he got up on the podium and would speak, and when he stepped off the podium, or when he got in his car. And before, he looked like he was struggling to do that. And I would even say, hey, man, you all right? Oh, yeah, I'm good. And no, you're not. You're not good. Like, do you think you're fooling anybody with the way you are? Well, now, Tiger, he looks and acts like the Tiger that I knew from back in the day, the guy who I used to follow and cover even before I was here with ESPN at SiriusXM doing play-by-play with them. We used to joke around and have a good time and have fun on the golf course. But that's when he was healthy, and he was playing some pretty good golf. That's the Tiger who I've been hanging out with the last 5 days, since Sunday. And watching him play golf makes me very cautiously optimistic and extremely excited because the guy who I'm watching walk around before his round, during his round, and especially after his round is a Tiger that I haven't seen in a long time. That's a healthy running up the stairs, giggling, having a good time, me and him telling some really bad jokes to each other on the golf course and making fun of people. But with that, then, like Junior said earlier, you know, I don't care until he plays in a major. Like, when's he going to contend there? Man, just because the dude looks like Superman and puts on the Superman outfit, it doesn't mean that he's going to be able to fly into a burning building and save babies right away. Like, that part we got to really chill out about because even Tiger said, I have no idea what to expect because it's been this long since he's felt like this.
Michael, what are the other players saying? I mean, there was a time when the other players feared Tiger Woods. That certainly that's been gone for years now. So what is the general consensus of Tiger now trying to come back yet again?
Yeah, it's funny. Tiger even mentioned that in his press conference on Tuesday at the very end, you know, because Justin Thomas had come in and said he wanted to kick his ass. And he goes, you know, I'm to my kids and to a lot of these young guys, I'm just the YouTube Tiger Woods. And just if I could, for 1 week, make the young guys feel like what the other guys that I used to play against felt like, that would be kind of cool. The problem with that is Y.E. Yang already ruined that for everybody. Like, with Y.E. Yang beating Tiger Woods at the PGA Championship in 2009, well, he's our Buster Douglas. So I was thinking about it this morning, like there's a great basketball analogy on it, too. You remember when Allen Iverson crossed over Michael Jordan? And when that happened, everyone went, what are we going to do now? Because it was like all the young guys you knew saw that and went, you know what, we can get him. And that's how the young guys are looking at Tiger Woods. Like, after what Y.E. Yang did, they're like, well, yeah, he's Tiger Woods, but we can beat him. Like, he's not the Tiger Woods from 2000. He's not the Tiger Woods from 2004. That guy is gone. Like, he's going to have to beat Dustin Johnson. And Tiger used to be able to beat guys with his B game. He can't do that anymore. He's just not going to, even at his best. You know, people say he's going to get back to the old Tiger. No, he's not. The old Tiger didn't have 4 back surgeries. The old Tiger wasn't 42 years old. So we really have to temper these expectations. But that being said, like Scott Van Pelt told me yesterday, he was getting text messages from a couple of pros that are out here, from a pro that's out here that said, hey, Tiger's going to win next season. And I was like, a pro is going crazy too? Buying into that? Like, Tiger doesn't even know what to expect. Because I asked Tiger straight up, hey, man, what do you want me to tell your fanatics that are saying, you know, Tiger's going to win. He's going to tear everyone up, and the young guys are going to be sorry that they've been talking about. And Tiger just sat back and laughed, and he looked at me and he goes, man, just tell everybody all I'm trying to do is get it in the first fairway on Thursday. And if I do that, I'd like to have a sand wedge in, hit it tight, and try and make birdie. That's my goal and expectation, and that's what theirs should be too.
Yeah.
And I laughed and was like, yeah, good luck with that. Okay.
Well, you're right, though, as we're talking to Michael Collins here, who's in the Bahamas for the Hero World Challenge, because a lot of those things that you're saying that some of the pros have been texting Scott and what you're seeing and what you're hearing, I heard a lot of this in 2015 when he was getting ready to come back and play out in Phoenix, because we were out there for the Super Bowl at the same time, and our own Andy North and other people saying he's hitting all those shots again. We're seeing those majestic 5-irons that fly so high in the air they look like they're a wedge. And then he went out there and couldn't do anything around the green. So for you specifically, Michael, this round alone, what would be a victory for you from Tiger in his first competitive round in 300 days?
I don't care what his score is. I don't. I honestly don't care what his score is. Just seeing him out there playing competitively again and having what I believe this time is a truly healthy back, or as healthy as it's going to be, that is the win. The win is Tiger's teeing it up again. And I'm 100% with you, Trey. When that all went down in the past with Tiger, he would be on the driving range. And I remember when he came back at the PGA Championship and hadn't teed it up in 4 months.
Right.
And he just showed up. And one of my boy Pat Perez was on the driving range with him and texted me, was like, this fool might win the tournament. I'm like, what? He's like, he's hitting every shot on the range, and he hasn't missed a shot. And I'm like, well, calm down, bro, because that's Ranger Rick right there. Who cares what you do on the driving range? What happens when the adrenaline hits? And then we saw it. It was horrible. It was terrible. So as great as Tiger might have looked like he was hitting it in the practice round, and his irons weren't great. His driver was fantastic, but that's practice.
Right.
His irons weren't great. His short game wasn't. He wasn't flubbing stuff like we saw in Phoenix. It wasn't like that, but it wasn't on point. It wasn't like top tier professional golfer like Tiger back in the day. It's not even close to that. So him teeing it up today and playing today, tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, that's a win for everyone. Because then after these 4 rounds, then we get to say, okay, here's what we saw, and I'm going to talk to Tiger and be like, oh, dude, all right, dude, where are you? How you feel? That's what's important.
Right, and we'll see if that happens.
Yeah.
Look, for any of us that went through this before and saw him just do all these amazing things, just give me a little hit of that right now, and I'll take it.
Yeah.
Michael, enjoy it. We look forward to it.
Thanks, Michael.
Again, he tees off at 12:15 Eastern Time in the Bahamas. Michael Collins with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You ready for a little over-under?
Let's do it.
All right, Golic and Wingo here, ready to wrap up the second hour with over and under, and let's start right here, right now. Over-under 1. Of Jerry Reese, Ben McAdoo, and Eli Manning that will still be with the Giants next season.
If Jerry Reese and Ben McAdoo are both gone, I believe Eli Manning can still be back.
Really?
Yes. With a new GM and a new coach that would say, all right, let's work on the running game. We have a defense we think that could still be good. It was a couple of years ago. So I will say, it's at 1, though.
Yeah.
I think it will be 1.
So you push?
I'm pushing.
I'm going to go under because I just think at this point Eli's like, really, dudes?
But you don't think Eli with new coach and GM may have a different thought process, or is it going to be still he puts it on the owner?
I think he wants to go this way and prove that all of you are wrong. And, yeah, I think it goes above because you heard John Maris say we are all worth talking about this. I think it's a 0. Move on to this one. Over Under brought to you by Amazon Music Unlimited. For a limited time only, sign up today. Receive 3 months for 99 cents at Amazon.com/Music Unlimited. Now we move on to the next topic. Over Under 7.5 teams that can still make the college football playoff.
So top 4, we have Alabama, Georgia, Miami. That would be the 7. 8 could be Ohio State. So, yeah, I think there's 8.
So you think over?
I'd say over. Yeah, I don't know how you can't say there's not 8.
I'm going to go under. I'm going to say there's only 4. Only 4 teams can make it, so only 4. I'm just playing the zero-sum game. Four teams are making it. That's it. 4.
God, okay. I hate you. I just hate you.
We'll move on to this one. How about this one? Over under 0.5 wins for the Browns this season. They've got the Chargers, the Packers, the Ravens, the Bears, and the Steelers.
I still think they'll win a game. I don't think they'll go on 16, so I'll go over.
Yeah, I will absolutely go go over because I would never wish 0-16 on my worst enemy.
On anybody. I completely agree with
FYI,
that.
the Browns won all 4 of their preseason games, and the only team that did that, the 2008 Detroit Lions, not the only team, but the Lions did that in 2008, and they also went 0-16.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, how about this one? Over-under 1 golfers that Tiger Woods beats this weekend in his own tournament, the Hero World Challenge.
Again, there's only 18 golfers, so it's 17 others. I do think he beats somebody else.
Yeah.
I'll go over.
I want him to go over. In fact, I want him to go way over.
I do too, but in realistic, thought process that he's still not going to golf that great, I still think it'll be over.
Yeah, I'm going to go over too, just because I want that to be the case. But again, as we had Michael Collins on, anyone who thinks they know what's going to happen is kidding themselves.
And
none of us know.
All 17 of these other golfers are ranked in the top 32 in the world. Last I checked, Tiger was ranked in the 1100s.
It's not good.
Not good.
Not good at the moment.
It's a high number.
The fact that he's ranked is actually amazing. Okay, how about this last over-under? You ready? In the minute that we have left.
Okay.
Mornings this week, I've reconsidered the job when my alarm went off.
Over and under 3. Oh, there's no between today and yesterday. You got a little tired. Today and then tomorrow, it will be over without question. You questioned it on the first day you walked in, so that was one right off the bat.
That's fair. I'm going to say, just in deference to the great crew that we have, including Cliff and Ray and Stanzik and Brett and Devin, and of course you and Junior.
Whatever.
I'm going to say 1. It was under. It was just the first day.
You're a liar.
Absolutely.
You are
100%.
Just a liar.
But I know who to lie to. And
That's
I'm
true.
looking at all of you guys that are doing such a great job.
And you're doing it with conviction.
Yes.
By the way, quickly going back to the golf tournament for Tiger. Last year, he beat 3 people.
There you go. And it was under par, I think, in the first round.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
Okay, coming up, we have the ultimate juxtaposition next hour. Stu Gatz and Schefter. Talk about opposite ends of the radio information
You're not
spectrum.
kidding. Wow.
That's coming up in the next hour. Stay with us as we roll on Thursday. Golic and Wingo.